Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode on Open Source Diaries. And over the past week, I've had so many questions on how designers can contribute to open source. I personally have been looking forward to this particular episode because from my time contributing to open source, a lot of persons did point out that they don't know how to navigate the open source space as designers. And so I have with me today an amazing speaker who is Asmit, a product designer who has years of experience contributing to open source communities from Wikimedia and so many other areas. But Asmit is an amazing product designer who enjoy rendering his services to open source communities and redesigning websites within these communities. So good to have you here, Asmit.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Anita. I'm Asmit Malakannawar and I'm a product designer in Berlin. And I currently work at Twist, and it's an open source company as well. I've been contributing to open source and design for the past 3.5 years and worked with projects like the GNOME Foundation, Async API, VVR, Anaconda, ORS, etc. And well, my primary focus has always been creating accessible websites and documentation and like creating user friendly experiences. And I try to promote open source design by helping different contributors to get into it. Yeah.
That is an interesting background, and I have a question, but I'll come back to it much later.
Yeah.
So first off, how did you get into design? For a start, how did you get start your career in design?
Well, I didn't start with design at first. It was more of front end contributions. So I come from an engineering background, and front end always amazed me. So I tried creating a few websites by following tutorials and later started contributing to front end projects. And my first GSOC project was a front end project as well, but a bit of design work. But then, as I started exploring more on that end, I found design more interesting and solving problems in design wise. So, yeah, that's how got started in design, and that's my background in design.
That's amazing. I think so many persons would actually resonate with this particular story of moving from a different ecosystem to one that best aligns with their interest. But I'm also now I want to hear the story behind moving into like design within the open source space and why you even decided to get started with open source contributions.
I decided to move into design because I liked solving problems, user focused problems. Like may it can be as simple as improving navigation of the website, or improving accessibility of the website, or designing it to make more mobile friendly or desktop friendly. So that's what intrigued me, and I don't have any background in design as such. As I mentioned that my degree is in engineering. So once I started diving into it, I uh, googled every resource that was available. I talked to different mentors. I approached a lot of people in open source on how I can start contributing to design, and luckily I found good mentors and I'm still in touch with them today. And yep, that pushed me to contribute to design in open source, and I'm working full time as an open source designer now.
Okay, so you said you had a background in engineering, and I'm wondering, are there like courses you took to help you, transition into the design ecosystem? Because like I've seen a lot of your community-based work, and it's really awesome. And I would have never assumed you had a background in engineering if you didn't mention.
Yeah, so engineering background helps when it's UX UI design. When you're specifically designing dashboards or websites, it's helpful to know that there are different frameworks and what are their limitations, what are their advantages, and all of that while designing. And design is just like a broad term. There are a lot of categories in it, like graphic design or like social media design, uh, the product design, web design, and etc. and all of that. But yeah, so my specific focus was UX UI design, and engineering background did help in that. So yeah. uh,
Yeah, so many persons often think of open source and open source contributions as a whole as something that requires a lot of coding skills. And I acknowledge that you mentioned engineering background, but like why is design as a whole an important aspect of open source?
Yeah, I think design is just as important as code. I believe that it's like the first stage. You can see like how your product is going to shape, or how your users are going to interact with the code that you are going to build. And yeah, it's design is not about something how it looks, but it's about how it functions. So how easy it is to use, how your users can easily set up a project or like make things work. And yeah, if you want your project to be adopted by other users, you need to design it in a way that it's intuitive and user friendly. So like for example, if you're developing a CLI tool, there is no graphics in that, there are no visuals in that per se, but the error messages when you get in CLI, that is like a design. So when it's just like one line error messages, it's very hard to understand. But if you design it in a way where you can give context, give links to the users, and point them to the documentation from the CLI itself, that's a good design. That's how users will come to know, oh, they messed up here, and they need to go to the documentation and help them resolve the issue quickly. So yeah, I would say that design is not just about the looks, and it's as important as code, and it's majorly of like how your project functions. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, how is designing within open source any different from designing in like a proprietary software?
Well, in open source, the first thing is the community, and a community plays a major role in decision making of your projects. Like, there are many maintainers and uh, coders and different diverse group of users, and they have varying needs of expectations. And you get feedback from different contributors around the world, and you have to be open to collaborate with them. And sometimes they can agree with you, sometimes they don't, but yeah, your project is shaped by multiple voices. And in contrast to working with a closed project or a traditional client, there is like a small team, they have fixed set of goals. They have more structured approval process where, okay, your manager will approve what you're working on, then you will work on that feature. But in open source, it's more like, okay, if this user has an issue, it needs to be worked on. And yeah, like the entire community kind of plays role in that. And yeah, that's what
Yeah, I do like that you pointed out how like the distinction between both, because a lot of times I'll assume um the flow of design in open source would probably be as rigid as that of like maybe a non-proprietary, or rather a proprietary software that is closed source and requires a lot of scrutiny. And I think the way you explain it makes it sound like it's more, that's like open source is more lenient with like design based contributions.
I would not say it's lenient. It's definitely time consuming process, because most of the projects which are open source, the maintainers are working there part time, so they are not on that project 24/7, or like say 40 hours a week. They will contribute in their free time. So it's sometimes difficult to work asynchronously when you don't get like feedback immediately, or not the way you expect. So I would say it's not lenient, but the community majorly plays a lot of role in how the project is shaped. Yeah, and I would like to add one more point that in open source design there is always an emphasis on accessibility and inclusivity. So like since the tool is free and open to use by everyone, there needs it needs to be ensured that the designs are not only inclusive but also accessible to wide range of users. So yeah, it takes time, but there are many uh, I would say design issues that are still needs to be worked on, and yeah, that's what I feel about it.
It's good that we have pointed out the importance of like accessibility and inclusivity, considering open source is like more of a collaborative effort. And I know that there's so many misconceptions when it comes to designing and open source. Now, so many persons have said a designer cannot have a career in open source because either the open source community would not see the relevance. But then looking at your background, you have made such a fantastic job at being a product designer within the open source space. So like are there other misconceptions regarding designing within open source, and how would you debunk some of this?
Well, yeah, from what I have observed, I know that many designers aren't aware in the first place that they can contribute their skills to open source. They think that it's just code and engineers just do it 24/7.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there's also like a lot of tutorials available online for coding or like for different frameworks or like how to contribute to different projects. But on the design side, there aren't many tutorials or there aren't many um, articles on how to contribute or how you can like get started. So yeah, I would suggest that or not I would say, but yeah, design input isn't like welcome much in open source projects because it's sometimes heavily focused on code, but there are some developers or some communities who focus on design and they want their project to succeed in every way. So yeah, I would suggest designers to just like look around, ask people, or just even go to GitHub and do a normal search on design issues, and there will be like a lot of issues popping up on maybe like creating a social image or improving some web page or like improving some UX of a project. And yeah, um, that's what I think. Yeah, some of the misconception.
I completely agree with the point that there is not enough resources compared to developer focused resources on design. And so many persons often come up with, oh, I'm a designer, but I don't think open source is for me because I don't see resources on, or like courses in general that are design focused within open source communities that can help a lot of people navigate this space. So, to your point earlier about open source being all on like collaboration and community led efforts, right? How do you typically handle collaboration with these numerous persons from the maintainers to the community managers to engineers and so many other persons within the community, especially when you know that the particular like requests are coming even from the contributors point of view where they're like the product is not accessible, or maybe the maintainers are like it is not adjustable to certain screen sizes and all of that. How do you manage collaboration and stay sane with all of the people that you're working with within the open source space?
Well, yeah, regarding collaboration, I think that whenever you approach a maintainer, you just don't text them, okay, how I want to contribute to this project, how should I do that? I would recommend that every contributor, not only designer, should do some of the homework, like how the project works, how it's structured, what are the design issues that the project is facing, or what problems are users facing. And once you get a grasp of that, then you can text a maintainer with a detailed message saying that okay, I want to work on this project. These are the issues that I found, and this is the solution that I'm looking to implement. Is it correct, or do you have any other solutions? Can you guide me? So you just need to approach the developers or maintainers in the community, and they are always ready to help. And one more point I would like to add is, don't just slide into their DMs. Always ask in general channel first, to see if they are comfortable, or like if other community members can help you easily. So yeah, that's how I would recommend any designers to just contribute to open source projects, and they can easily collaborate in that way.
Yeah, I agree with actually being more open with whatever questions you have, especially in a community point of view. And on my end, I always say just join the community meetings and then ask the questions there.
That's nice. Yeah, community meetings are a great way to introduce yourself and what you want to contribute to the project. Like, I remember when I was applying for the Linux Foundation mentorship program,
Mhm.
I used to join the community meetings at 5:30 a.m. in the morning. It was based in US, so their meetings were in US timings. So that was pretty early for me, but I wanted to contribute to the project and improve the design. So yeah, I made myself get up and join the meetings, provide my input, and yeah, that's how you get in touch with the maintainers and improve the project, and show that you actually want to contribute to the project instead of just like you're there and you're not there. Yeah.
That's actually really inspiring. And I know that so many people actually have that same time zone restriction where the meetings they actually want to be part of is not within their time zones. That's actually really interesting to know.
Yeah. Yeah, like time zone restrictions are there. Like most of the maintainers whom I worked with were from North America or Europe, and yeah, it's difficult. But once you set your mind that you want to improve this thing, or you want to make this project better, you just go ahead with it. Yeah.
I love that you pointed that out. So now, as someone who is working with engineers from different time zones and all of that, how do you approach feedback or criticisms when it involves like an open source project, and how do you handle that?
Approaching feedback is definitely like an important part of work when you're contributing to open source. So I make sure to listen carefully to the feedback instead of taking it like an attack. And yeah, I take it in like consider it from the perspective of improving the project. I try not to take things personally, because I don't know the maintainer personally, or he doesn't know me, or they don't know me. So yeah, even if the feedback is harsh or unexpected, I take things in a constructive way. And yeah, everyone wants the project to succeed, and constructive criticism is part of that. And if the feedback is unclear or I'm unsure about certain points, I ping the maintainers and I get clear idea of what needs to be done. And yeah, to avoid major misunderstandings, I would suggest designers to get feedback as early as possible, instead of like delivering a final product and then getting feedbacks from scratch.
Yeah, so talking about communication, right? How, when you have an idea about a project, let's say the website already looks all designed, but then from a design point of view, you notice issues with that particular project. How do you, bring forth, communicate your ideas to the project, especially when like you're working asynchronously with some of these engineers? How do you do that? How do you make sure that your ideas are considered, or maybe it's actually giving a listening ear from like the design perspective?
Well, I would say that use a lot of visuals to communicate your ideas. If you find, suppose there's an accessibility issue, you can show the comparison between the old website and the new one which you have created. Or say if there are any mistakes with the UX copy, you can again use different visuals to communicate, okay, this method was old and it was uh, working before, but this is the new way and this is what I think should be done. And you need to also provide like a detailed rationale of why do you want to change that and why is it necessary. Because like again, design is not always put first, but when you show them that okay, this is important and this is how users will benefit from this change, they are again welcome to accept your idea and work on it together. And yeah, and if a project already has a design system, uh, you should definitely use that. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. So yeah, these are some of the points that I would like to include. And also I would also suggest that stay active in community calls and discussions, because that's where most of the communication happens, and that's the one point where maybe like every maintainer of the project meets, and then you can share your ideas and maybe get an approval there itself in the meeting. So
That's actually nice. So, how did you get involved with some of these communities and projects that you have worked with in the past? I know you mentioned Gnome Foundation, Linux, and so many others, right? And so many persons get overwhelmed by the idea of jumping into a community and just introducing themselves, because there are chances you might not get a response. So, like, how did you break into these communities with your skill set and then make them make impact from that point onwards?
well, to get involved in these communities, it's pretty straightforward. As I mentioned, that if you find any issues with the project or if you find any errors, you just need to approach the project Slack channel or Discord channel and just like text your doubt there. If you get a reply, that's good. And if you don't, you can like create a GitHub issue. Generally, GitHub issues get replies. So yeah, and in my case, I would share one of like a story where uh, one day the Conda project tweeted on like X that we are looking for front end designers and web developers to redesign our website, and it was just a random tweet that came in my feed, and I explored what the project was about. And I had no background in Python or anything, but I know that the design could be improved. So I approached the maintainers and shared my ideas. Okay, this is what I wanted to do. And I joined their community meetings. And yeah, that's how I got started with the Conda project. And I also got to collaborate with a lot of senior people, which eventually helped me ahead in career when I wanted referrals to apply in Anaconda. Yeah, that really helped me.
That's an interesting story. So, like, I know that you said it's a pretty straightforward, but like in reality, so many persons are currently struggling with these same, pathways that seem to be really smooth for you, right? So now, how would you say someone can approach, like, transition from just being someone who is inquisitive about an open source project to actually being either becoming like the senior design lead, or like the team lead for a particular project, or like basically just moving from a an inquisitive contributor to like leadership positions? How would you say someone can approach that?
Well, yeah. Once you start showing your skills in an open source project, maintainers also start noticing you, and they would also, encourage you to do better and improve the project, and that helps you and the project as well. And once you start taking the lead in a project by yourself, you get opportunities in that way. So again, using the Conda example, I there were no designers there, and I was the first to join that channel, and I took the lead by myself and showed them Figma designs. And since I also knew how to code, I used used like a docusaurus framework to quickly build up a documentation website and used my design and then coded it in front end. So taking lead matters, where you don't just like join the project, put a message and leave it there, but you actually take actions and yeah, show your actions to the maintainers and they notice it, and that's how the basic process starts. So I would recommend to new designers that they should just show up in a community and then get working on the project itself instead of waiting for someone to hold their hands and guide them. Yeah.
Yeah, so based on your design contributions to open source, you're able to get recommendations to like other communities, right? And so I'm wondering, have you actually got paid opportunities to contribute to a community as a designer?
Well, I would not say it was like a freelancing project, but more it was like a mentorship program. Yeah, looking at my previous projects, Async API helped me with one of their projects where had to improve their API documentation.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was a small freelancing opportunity, but also a mentorship program where I got to work with designers from Postman and the CEO itself. And yeah, like all of my previous internships have been in open source only. Like I completed GSOC twice, then Linux mentorship program, and then this async API program. And I also got a chance in Google season of docs. So in a way, all my internships were in open source and all were paid. So yeah. And I also know a few designers where they are constantly contributing to a community and eventually they got hired as a designer in that community. So yeah, I would say that it's still possible. Yeah.
And during this time contributing to these communities, do you still get to like write code from time to time or strictly design as of now?
Yeah, well, when contributing to communities, working with code is like part of the process. You just can't like skip the code and just work on the design. Right now, in my company, I just work on the design front, but when I'm contributing to, say, Gnome Foundation or like different other communities, I also work with code sometimes. So yeah, it's there and it keeps the coding habit alive and yeah, helps me remember the basic syntax.
That's really interesting. And I'm glad you pointed that out. So in case anyone here is wondering if you need to be a code expert to contribute to open source, as Mate is telling us today, you don't need to, but having a knowledge of the project does play a huge role.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So, how has contributing to open source shaped your entire career as a whole? Would you say it has been a positive on the positive aspects of things, or how has it shaped your experience?
It's definitely been positive. I would say that I owe a lot of my career to open source. If I hadn't contributed early on, I wouldn't be here on this podcast either. So working on open source design project did help me dive deep into the UI UX workflow, and it taught me how to engage with the users. I iterate designs based on the feedback and work on some real world projects as well. And it also gave me a chance to connect with people all across the globe. I also attended a few conferences like Open Source Summit EU, the Guadec by Gnome Foundation, and then yeah, and beyond the design work, I also had like opportunity to present myself at these conferences. And my first international flight was also thanks to open source, where I presented my Google Summer of Code project in a conference. So yeah, I am like forever grateful for this like experiences. And recently I moved to Berlin as well to work with the team, and yeah, it's been going pretty great.
That's awesome. Congratulations on moving.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Asmin, thank you. This has been really, really exciting, and I'm loving every point that we've had so far. And
Mhm.
I'm wondering, what is one thing you'd like maybe any UI UX designer who has aspirations to get into open source community? what is one thing you'd like them to know, or a lesson you'd like them to have at the back of their minds while they're contributing?
Uh, well, I would say that I wish that more designers just knew that they can just start right away contributing to open source and improve the project. And since open source tools are used by everyone, it powers everything. So that's a good enough reason to contribute to open source design. And yeah, you can just reach out to maintainers, and it makes a huge difference since it works like 99% of the time. And if you genuinely want to improve a project, and then you can like clearly communicate your ideas, maintainers are more than happy to like welcome you and then give you inputs and collaborate. And that's what I would say.
Yeah, so I also want to know, you mentioned earlier about reaching out to a few mentors who also guided you on the right path, right? So how can people also approach mentors or other persons also to stand as mentors for them when they want to get into this career path as well?
For reaching out to mentors, it was mostly during my Google Summer of Code period. But other than that, ADP List is a great platform where you can reach out to different designers from like different experience levels, and you can book a meeting with them and discuss your ambitions and your portfolio. And like you can also ask them how they started their career, or you can ask them how should you start contributing to open source and all of that stuff. And list is not only for designers, but for every I would say every career path, may it be code, communications, marketing, etc. So I found like three of my mentors there, and they're still in touch. And yeah, they also contribute to open source full time. And once you find a right mentor, you can follow their advice and implement that while working on yourself. And that pretty much helped me. And that's why I'm here today.
That's amazing, actually. And one more question before we wrap
Yeah.
up. Now, I know you work with so many projects, and during that, you must have also got to use so many tools, right? Are there like specific tools, maybe open source, maybe non-open source, that you think someone who is starting off their career can use to, make their contributions? Some of this, it would be nice if they're not paid, because I know so many persons are looking for like free products that they can
Mhm.
use to contribute to open source. So, like, are there some projects you can also recommend, tools or any softwares that you can recommend?
Yeah, so to contribute to design specifically, there is a platform called opensourcedesign.net, and they regularly have job postings listed on their website. Most of them are for like not unpaid, but then sometimes a paid job posting is also listed there. And the unpaid job postings are what you can use to contribute to open source and improve your skills. And in that way you're actually working on a real world project instead of some imaginary case study. And you can also include that project in your portfolio, since it will be like up on the net, and you can show your maybe potential future employer that okay, you have worked on this project. And there is another website called contribute.design, where certain repositories or projects participate in, and they list their projects on that website. So yeah, these are like the two platforms. And I would say that GitHub is your main source of all the design issues. You can just use like the GitHub's normal search bar, search for tag design, and yeah, the results will be like too many design issues. But once you start filtering it out and like recognize the project, or you use the project yourself, you can like easily comment under that issue if you want to contribute. And yeah, that's a, those are the few platforms and suggestions that I would suggest for new users or designers who are starting out.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. Thank you so much, Asmit. This has been really informative, and I am sure anyone who is watching this right now is already seeing how they can start their open source journey as designers, whether it is UI UX or you want to be a product designer like Asmit. And also, is it okay if you get DMs after this video in case
Yeah,
anyone wants to get mentored as well?
yeah, I'm open to like receiving DMs. I'm active on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So yeah, you can DM me.
Great. Okay, so if you have any questions, you heard Asmit, you can always send a DM, and I hope this particular episode answers your question on whether you can use your design skills within the open source ecosystem. That being said, thank you everyone, and thank you very much, Asmit, for joining us today. If you've gotten to this point, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe, and also share it with whoever wants to get into design or open source in general but doesn't know how to, because we have a ton of videos that are going to help them navigate open source ecosystem.